Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the GD Report. I'm G,
And I'm D.
and I am coming to you from the great state of North Carolina, where I'm out visiting family. And here with us today is D with a brand new look.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, and we got a pretty good show in line for you today. We're going to be discussing some moves in the Senate and what it actually is going on in the Senate with the impeachment trial. So, Dee, why don't you start us out and tell us a little bit about some Senate openings and what might be going on with that?
Yeah, we'll get to the business that the Senate had today, but a couple of big things happening in the Senate as far as open seats go. Republicans, I believe, have to defend about 22 seats
Yeah, I think that's right.
in 2022, which is, as much as the rest of the public hates it, us political junkies like G and D, we love it. The fact that's actually just a year away.
Yeah,
Everybody says 2 years, but the election was actually 2020. So less than 2 years away. We've got the midterms coming up. And a big announcement this week came out of senior senator from Alabama, Richard Shelby, announced he is not going to, he's 86 years old. He's not going to seek another term. And so that'll be an open seat. Wow, that's pretty reliably a safe seat for the Republicans. Couple of big things to think about. Number one is, I guarantee you the people of Alabama are going to be having buyer's remorse on Tommy Tuberville if they haven't already,
right.
because his excuse for not knowing about Marjorie Taylor Greene was that the weather had been really bad and he had a chance to keep up with the news. And so,
Right.
you never know. I mean, Doug Jones won that special election over Roy Moore. I imagine Roy Moore will probably run again, and Jeff Sessions will probably run again on the Republican side. And I'm not sure who out there. I mean, there could be some pretty strong Democratic candidates too. So we'll see about that one. But the bigger implication, I think, is just the momentum. What we typically see in Senate retirements is you saw Richard Burr in North Carolina, where you are, say he was not going to run again.
Yep.
You saw Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania say he's not going to run again. Now you've got Shelby. And so you start to see momentum on one side as far as retirements go. There haven't been any notable retirements on the Democratic side. So the big questions now go to Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. Has he had enough? Will he retire? You've got Chuck Grassley in Iowa. Will he consider doing it?
Right.
And because there's a lot of these folks that may just be getting tired of having to deal with the QAnon side of the house, because they are the QAnon party now.
Yeah.
And so you end up with a case where somebody like Shelby now, if he's not running for re-election, that also leaves him open to the fact that what does he have to lose in an impeachment vote?
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind, is that frees these guys up to kind of vote their conscience. And I think they've like the rest of, most of the rest of the country, I think they've had Trump fatigue, and they may be getting ready to cast their votes and just say to heck with it, and make sure he can't come back and haunt the party.
Oh, and I forgot to mention too, Rob Portman
Right.
in that group too in Ohio. And that leads me to second big point about the Senate elections is we had two big announcements this week as far as declared candidates. In the state of Ohio, Congressman Tim Ryan, who had a short-lived run for president, has announced that he will seek the Democratic nomination in Ohio. He's a super strong candidate for Ohio.
Yep.
He's that populist, working class guy, relates well to unions, really close to a Sherrod Brown type of candidate. Who Sherrod Brown's one of the only statewide officials that's won statewide races as a Democrat. And so he becomes a really formidable candidate. Tim Ryan does right off the bat. And then John Fetterman, lieutenant governor in Pennsylvania, has declared that he's running for the open Senate seat there. So two really high, and he's a Western PA guy. He's a populist as well, relates to a lot of the crossover voters who that weird class of voter who voted for Obama and then turned around and voted for Trump.
Right.
Both those two guys are the kinds of guys that I think can relate and can win some of those votes back. So Democrats have already scored a couple of really good candidates there. So we'll see how those races work out.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's turn our attention now to the Senate, and you kind of already alluded to that. So, the trial for former President Trump is underway, and tell us how that went. So today was the opening salvo, if
Right.
you will. And so tell us how that went today for both the Trump side and the prosecution side, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had opening arguments today, and then they moved into a phase of the trial where, and it's funny because they just had this vote about 2 weeks ago, but they had another uh, debate on whether the trial was constitutional or not.
Right.
And by all accounts and by designations from both sides of the aisle, the House managers just ran roughshod over Trump's attorneys. I mean, the thing about this case is this is not a phone call that people that's an audio file with another country. This is something that we as a country all lived through
Yeah.
live on TV. And so it was right in front of us. In even the Senate chamber where they are having the trial is part of the crime scene. The
Yeah.
senators were victims. The House managers were victims of the crime. And so opening argument or opening of the case, the House managers presented about a 14-minute long video clip where they did a time lapse of the speeches that Trump gave that day, the things that happened in the Capitol, the violence, the video that he released where he said, "We love you, you're great."
Right.
The tweet he issued at the end of the day where he said, "This is what happens when patriots aren't listened to," and it was compelling. I mean,
Oh,
if you watch that video clip, and I challenge everybody to go take a look at it, it is compelling. On the other side of the case, Trump's attorneys seemed ill prepared. They actually flipped from who was going to argue originally. The Bruce Castor went first when initially it was going to be the other attorney. I believe his name is David Schoen or David Shane. I'm not sure the exact pronunciation, was supposed to go first, but they flipped, and Bruce Castor gave a meandering speech where it was confusing. It didn't make a lot of sense. He talked about how he said the Constitution, only says that the remedy for impeachment is trial and conviction means removal of office. And he stopped there when in the actual text of the Constitution, it says, and potential barring of running for future office. It's in the Constitution. He didn't read that part. He left that out completely. And he even argued at one point that there was no need to have a trial because the voters had voted to remove former President Trump from office. And from the New York Times accounts, Trump was furious at that statement.
right.
But I will say this in Trump's attorney's defense, that's a little double entendre there, I guess. But in their defense, I mean, they did, what was it last week that he fired his attorneys and then hired these guys to get this case together?
Yeah. So it's pretty last minute for them, even though it's been played out in the public. It's still, when you're going to do something of this magnitude, you need weeks, if not months, to get prepared for it.
Yeah, and the second attorney tried. He got a little bit more emotional and he tried to play the argument that which I've heard people on the right say this. Well, now this means that George Washington or Jimmy Carter can be impeached and all these people, and they leave out the fact that Donald Trump was impeached while he was president for crimes he committed while he was president.
Absolutely.
The fact that we're not having a trial, that was totally Moscow Mitch's decision.
Yeah.
We didn't have the trial till now because they had about a week. They could have had the trial.
Yeah.
And they weren't in session. Moscow Mitch could have called them back into session. He said, "We're not going to do it. We got plenty of time to do it." And then once Biden became president, then suddenly their argument was, "Oh, well, it's never been done before. You can't have a trial after somebody's not president." So they want to have their cake and eat it too.
Right. I have a question for you. I've been following, I believe we're over 200 arrests now in conjunction with the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And I don't know how many people are following this, but the Senate uh, is still somewhat in the hands of the Republicans. And so, particularly in the, I believe it's the Judiciary Committee, um, Lindsey Graham is still in charge of that. Is that correct?
Actually, I gotta jump in there. They actually passed that resolution, I believe, on Friday or Monday, and the committee chairs have changed hands now.
Okay. Because one of the things I was concerned about was that, and I may be way off base here, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Just see, do you think there's any chance the Justice Department might make a move to arrest Trump, and maybe that's why Lindsey Graham was holding up Merrick Garland's nomination to be head of the Justice Department, the Attorney
I
General?
think anything's possible. And the funny thing about that is Republicans are trying to make that case. Marco Rubio said that today. He said, well, if people think there's enough evidence that Trump did something wrong, they should the district attorney or the federal attorney should file charges with the grand jury and they should take him to court. Well, maybe that's a challenge, dude.
Yeah. Well, you got to get a boss for your department before you can do that. So,
Yeah, that could be why he wanted to hold on to that, and I think they're just being vindictive too. They want one more last chance for them to show their asses,
right.
and it's been interesting. But the other thing is that I find is most of the charges have been misdemeanor charges. You
Right.
know, unlawful entry of a public building, things like that. There and I don't think, and maybe it's because the Justice Department hadn't changed hands yet, but I would think that there could be a lot more felony charges with threats, with insurrection, and maybe they're gonna. I would look for this to be in the evidence. I was talking about this tonight with another friend that as the House managers present their case, we've seen a whole lot of cell phone footage, but we've not seen a lot of security camera footage.
Right.
And it wouldn't surprise me if there's not security camera footage, even of Officer Sicknick being killed.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I was going to say is that while we've seen a lot of misdemeanor charges, I would expect at least some manslaughter charges because people died in this. People, I just read today where people had their eyes gouged out.
One guy lost 3 fingers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are starting to come out that weren't in the initial reporting, and this thing was a lot worse. And I believe it was Joe Neguse, who's from my state of Colorado today, that said this thing could have been. It could have been. It very easily could have been, and I think that's what the American people don't fully grasp is that it easily could have been far, far worse. I mean, they missed Mike Pence by about 30 seconds. They could have gotten Pence and Nancy Pelosi and who knows who else, and hung them out there on the grounds of the Capitol. I mean, this could have plunged the nation into a full blown civil war, and it could have done
Well,
it
and
in
Jake,
order.
and Jake Tapper on CNN today made the point, and I hate to even fathom the thought because there's a lot of people that I don't care for politically, but I don't wish ill will on anybody.
Yeah.
But he said if something dastardly had happened to Mike Pence, would that have even swayed any of the Republicans in the Senate's minds?
Yeah, I don't. You hate to, jump to conclusions, but I got to tell you, a lot of those people I think had drank the Kool-Aid to where it probably
Well,
would.
and he said that's what Jake said. He said, he said that he thought they would still say, well, Trump's not to blame for it, and you can't. He's got freedom of speech, and a lot of people are confusing what freedom of speech means, and it's funny to me. It's a lot of the same people who were burning Dixie Chick records.
Yeah.
That when they just said that they were ashamed that he was from Texas, that Bush was from Texas,
George W.
and they were out burning Dixie Chick records and getting them banned off country radio for making an innocuous statement like that, and giving death threats to their lives whenever these people actually threatened our democracy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know if you have any predictions. I mean, I kind of threw that one out there already about how I think that there'll be some footage, possibly even of Officer Signick being attacked in the trial. It wouldn't shock me tomorrow if the Bruce Castor is fired from Trump's team.
Right. Well, who's he going to get to take his place, Rudy?
I don't think I think he originally wanted Rudy, but I understood that they didn't want Rudy to be in it because Rudy faces possible charges for his trial by combat comment that he made at the rally. I could see him trying to bring Dershowitz was on OAN today or Newsmax, I think. I forget which one. I get those two confused. Uh, but and Dershowitz said he had no idea what Bruce Castor was doing as the attorney. Was very critical of him. So I could see him trying to get Dershowitz to come in or something at the last minute. But it was definitely not a good day. And the fact that the vote that they gained one extra vote from the last time they voted constitutionality was 55 to 45, and the vote today was 56 to 44. Right. Doesn't seem monumental, but when you start counting votes, you go, they only need 11 more votes.
Yeah. Well, or they need 11 people not to show up.
True enough. Yeah.
I think if they're going to get 11 votes, just studying how the whip count, I think if they're going to get 11 more votes, they need something dramatic. They need that the murder of the Capitol officer or something, somebody.
Or if they had some kind of testimony from somebody at the White House about what Trump was doing during the rally.
Yeah. Well, and I read where several of his aides have basically said that he was gleeful, through most of the day watching what was going on and was extremely happy with how it was shaping up. So
if they had they'll need some type of evidentiary proof of that other than just anecdotal. But if they had a phone call or something where because I don't know if you heard the story, but on the day, both he and Giuliani did try to call Tommy Tuberville to try to convince him to object to more states when they got back to the Electoral College count.
Right.
But they had the wrong number and they left it on another senator's cell phone.
Oh, I do remember hearing that.
And so, if say they had a voicemail from Trump where he said, hey, I'm watching this. This is great. This is so good. I hope, and he said, I hope they get somebody, and he named names. I don't want to name names on here, but he named a high-ranking leader and said, I hope they get them. That would be pretty damning.
Yeah.
So
I think there's no doubt that basically this was a coup attempt, I think if it had succeeded, that Trump, if they had been able to get Pelosi and Pence, that Trump would have declared martial law. He would have declared himself the president until who knows when. And
or they could have tried some kind of chicanery where they either had people as hostages and they tried to move ahead with the vote.
Yeah.
And said, we're only going to count the votes because these states are in, I'm declaring martial law in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, or wherever, or Georgia. And I'm declaring those votes for myself. And because of this dangerous situation, I'm in charge now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was very close to being something really crazy, and people don't realize that, but it certainly was.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be an interesting few days. We just had an announcement here in Oklahoma. I'm going to change topics real quick as we wrap up, but that Walmart and Sam's Clubs are now going to be vaccine sites in Oklahoma. So I'm hoping more of that happens around the country as more and more folks get the vaccine. But again, even if you have the vaccine, you can be a carrier. So please, when you go out, wear a mask and wear it for others, wear it for yourself.
Well, I noticed that CVS and Walgreens are also going to be vaccination points, but you're still subject to your state regulations. So for me, even though I'm in a high-risk group, I still have to wait until all the ones over 65 have been vaccinated.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in again, and we'll see you in a week or so.
Everybody take care and have a great day.
Bye-bye.